Hello everyone and welcome to 27. Today we're going to be looking at the Porsche 964 and the Ferrari 355. Both seminal cars for these makers. Porsche originally decided that they were going to stop with the 911. They actually created the 928 to replace it, and for years they didn't invest in that. The 964 is when they finally realised they had to continue with the 911. And it was the first major update to this car for about 8, 9, 10 years, I think, when the 3.2 came out. The 355 is here because before the 355, Ferrari just made some pretty, let's be honest, some pretty terrible cars. Yes, in the 60s and 70s there were some iconic cars, but in the 80s and 90s they made cars with amazing engines. They made cars that looked incredible, but they just didn't handle. There wasn't enough substance to them. The 355 was really the result of the Honda NSX. Ferrari saw that car and realised that they had to start making decent cars, both in quality and in terms of handling. So this again is a really seminal car for Ferrari. Let's take them out for a drive. It's the first time I've driven a 964 Targa, and also a 964, which is pretty standard, in a long time. You just forget what nice cars they are, as they are. You know, I did so much stuff to mine, and it's just lovely to be in a car which is as Porsche intended. Don't get me wrong, I love my car. It's mine, it's personalised, it's not everyone's cup of tea. But this is just so comfortable. For a start, in these sports seats, they keep you really... They keep you in place, no problem, but they're so comfortable compared to those horrible buckets that I've got now. It does feel like it's hewn from a single block. It's a lovely, and it's so small and narrow that even on these roads it's just a pleasure. The engine is really torquey. It's just a perfect sports car, really, as it is. You get loads of feedback. The gear change is a little bit long, a little bit vague, but it's not bad. It's quite light. It's nice. The steering is precise. You can place it where you want to place it. This one has Bilstein HDs, or Bilstein Sports shocks. Very familiar to me. They're not that different to standard, they're a bit stiffer. The reason they're so familiar to me is that they used to be in 27 in my 964. I sold them to Chris. Then the HDs are just a brilliant compromise, really good. Oh. Love the 964 engine. It certainly isn't fast, but it's sprightly. My own 964 with its sort of lightweight and slightly tuned engine is definitely much more lively than this one. The reason why the 964 is so important is that Porsche had given up, by the early 80s, had totally given up on the 911. The 928 was supposed to be the replacement for it, and they just stopped developing it. They did the 3.2, they just sort of enlarged the engine a bit, but it wasn't really much different to an SC. But the 911 just kept on selling, and actually the 928 wasn't the success that I think they thought it would be. So Porsche finally bit the bullet and decided they had to continue to develop it, and the 964 was the biggest revolution in 911s for years and years. First of all, it came out as a Carrera 4, so it was actually a four-wheel drive. That was to address the long-time criticisms of 911s that they could bite back, they could be really tricky in the wet, widow makers, and so on. The Carrera 2 came out a couple of years after that, but it was really quite a deeply redesigned car. The interior was different, the chassis was quite, was different. The suspension, it had proper dampers and proper spring and dampers. It had power steering. The climate change was redesigned. It's really neutral. I wasn't pushing it very much there, but you can just feel it sort of edging in on either side. This has been set up properly, I think, with geometry and everything else. Otherwise, they do tend to understeer slightly at the limit. but that just feels lovely, really, really balanced. Love the 964, I knew I would. Now time to try the 355. Right everyone, how lucky am I? Ferrari 355, my all-time favourite small Ferrari. I'm in it, I'm really driving it. It's my first ever Ferrari. Look at that gate. Oh my God. Oh, that engine. I'm only sort of like pottering around. But already, the engine feels so responsive. Now, when this came out, Ferrari, I think, had been a bit stung by Honda's first attempt at a supercar, the NSX, which was unbelievably good and usable day to day. And this was really their response. God, that engine is unbelievable. It just feels race bred. The steering's much lighter than it is in the 964. It still feels really precise, but it feels like this car is much more willing to turn. It feels more natural. It's quicker. I've always imagined that these Ferrari gear changes would be really heavy, notchy, but it's not. It's really nice. It's crisp. It's precise. Oh, that engine. Up to 8,500 revs. It becomes really metallic and machine-like at the top. Every time I blip the throttle, I can't bring to you the happiness that I get just from doing that. Heel and towing. Simple pleasures. But it's not all just about that engine. It does seem to handle. It gives you enough feedback even though the steering is so light. You don't have to drive it that fast to enjoy it. Even driving around at normal speeds, it's still nice. What I really like about this is although the steering is very light, it's incredibly tactile. It's at least as good as the Porsche one. But it feels much happier to turn in. Oh, I love it! Oh. There's a fluency about this car which is just fantastic. It's comfortable, the suspension is not hard. I'm just gobsmacked by how much I like it. The engine is mega responsive. The steering is quite light, but really sweet. The gear change is perfect. The engine's so responsive. Have I said that already? This is what I would hope of any Ferrari. I can't get over it. I'm immediately thinking, how could I buy one of those? How can I do it? I mean, the answer is I can't really. You can get a 355. They start at 50 and go up from there. You know, I could sell the Maserati, sell some other stuff maybe, and just about get one, but I'd have nowhere to keep it. And you just can't keep these outside. You can't. In terms of quality, the 964 is definitely a league above. I like the way this is set out. It looks great. But this has the familiar Italian supercar problem of this time, in that you're getting sort of melting plastics. When it hits 6,000 revs, you get extra little bit of go. The 964 is a very, very special car. I absolutely love them. They've just got an incredible amount of character, and they're very, very good cars. My short exposure to the 355 I just find absolutely incredible. To me, it's just, in terms of just pure driving pleasure, it's just an incredible thing. I adore it. I don't think it's completely fair to compare the two. Price-wise and in other ways, they're just poles apart. In terms of pure driving pleasure, I prefer this. It's just so in your face, and it's such a pleasure to drive. In terms of ownership experience, the 964 is a car that gives you 90% of what this does, but it can do it day in, day out. You can keep it out on the road, it's not too flashy and in your face, and it's just lovable. This isn't lovable. This I can love. It's not a lovable car, it's got character, but the 964, like Chris's 964, it feels like it's alive, like it's got a personality of its own. This is just a freaking amazing driving tool. My first Ferrari experience has definitely not been a letdown. I'm glad I drove the 355 and not something else. It's just been brilliant. It's been brilliant, and I'm just trying to work out how I can buy one. If I can buy one, I can't, but I really want to. If you like the video, please like, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and see you for the next one.